Before the big game over the weekend, the NFL announced its finalists for the Hall of Fame. And of course, once again this year, Idaho's own Jerry Kramer was ignored, other than the fact he has 5 championship rings and was voted the best offensive lineman in the first 50 years of the National Football League. He can't catch a break. They initiated some old timer, Dick Stanfill, who played in the 1950s, who was reasonably good. But again, Kramer had 5 championship rings. Vince Lombardi said he might have known a little about football. He was the coach of those 5 championship teams. Lombardi said he was perhaps the best player ever at his position. Yet he can't get in the Hall of Fame. And then I read where Tony Dungy got in because he won 1 Super Bowl. Now, Tom Flores won 2 with the Oakland Raiders. Tom Flores, if you didn't know it, is Latino, but I guess he's not in. And yet Tony Dungy, who won 1 Super Bowl with a team that was pretty much dropped in his lap after he got fired in Tampa Bay, a pretty good football team in Indianapolis at the time. Dungy is in because, well, he's black. Let's be honest about that. He's in because, well, gee willikers, a black man coached a Super Bowl winning football team. Therefore, he's going to the Hall of Fame. Tom Flores, on the other hand, with the Elvis haircut, Tom Flores, 2 Super Bowl wins, and I believe he's not in. So what's the deal with the politics there? And maybe if Jerry Kramer would, announce that he was perhaps, multiracial, or that perhaps that he really over the years had a thing for Max McGee and Fuzzy Thurston, maybe they would actually vote him in immediately and enshrine him because he would be different, and therefore we would have. Or if he said he was left-handed, perhaps maybe they could put him in the Hall of Fame. 826, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX at newsradio1310.com. It's 24. Our telephone number 7360300, 7360300. You're up next. You're on KLIX.
Yeah, I know you were trying to get away from the fetus commercial, but I had one last comment. A salmon egg, when it gets fertilized, for lack of a better term, it becomes a living organism. A human egg, when it gets fertilized, it has to wait 9 months before it can become a living organism. The liberals would have you not, destroy the salmon, but it's just fine to kill a human.
Well, and you look at this argument that they make in many states. A woman who's pregnant, if she's killed or someone causes her to abort through a crime, an assault, that child is then treated as if it is a homicide victim. And yet, if the woman goes down to her local Planned Parenthood office and they get out the suction hose and just, tear it apart, then that's okay. They don't see the contradiction. Absolutely amazing. 827, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. And the verbal gymnastics that they do to try to ensure this is it's absolutely beyond belief. And it just shows you how cold-hearted people keep saying, well, for the health of the mother or in certain rare cases. Baloney. And all of these, people would then be in the back alleys. Number one, they shouldn't be. Number two, I think that's greatly exaggerated. Mostly it comes down to convenience. Well, I can't have a child right now because it would interfere with my possible promotion at work, and I would miss out on the promotion and making a lot of money. Okay, well, if you've got a 7-year-old child, let's say you're living here in southern Idaho, or you're in northern Utah or northern Nevada, one of these lovely little towns here in the high desert, and suddenly you get a job offer, and it comes from somebody in San Francisco, and they said, look, it's an expensive place to live, so we'll give you $250,000 a year so you can find a nice place, and we'll give you an office in the executive suite. Well, I've got a 7-year-old child. Well, you can't bring your 7-year-old. Do you then drag your 7-year-old down to Planned Parenthood and have someone stick scissors in the 7-year-old's head so you don't have to take the 7-year-old along? This is also very arbitrary. That's the other part of this. And they the steam comes out of the ears of these liberal women and their comfortable shoes when they hear these things. Now, granted, most of the women who are making these arguments never get close enough to a man or the men hold up their noses and and have to try to get away from them in these situations. A lot of them would never actually have. So they're talking about other women. In fact, many of them are talking about other women. They're talking about women who perhaps are people of color, and suggest that, well, that baby won't have much of a life. Seems to me it's rather racist in many of these situations as well. It's 8:29. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I've got a little bit more coming up this morning I wanted to mention. We've got Randy Staples from Idaho Weekly Briefing. He's going to be talking with us about a hearing last week that took place in the state legislature. You have a doctor from Idaho Falls who's arguing that the state legislature is responsible for killing a woman because they did not expand the Medicaid program. It might be a little difficult to find that causality there, but that's the claim and the argument that's being made. The other argument, I know it sounds cold-hearted when we talk about expanding all of these programs, but as a fellow I knew once who worked in government said to me, who's going to pay for all of this? That's the question that just doesn't seem to get answered often enough. In the meantime, Bill Colley with you this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We've got another 90 minutes ahead.